All right, welcome back, everybody. And here we are now on the next part of our game development journey. And in the last video, we looked at how to create pickups. And you saw, this is where we left off, that the cube that is our player just simply touches the blocks and they disappear. Nothing fancy, but the blocks will disappear when they get touched. Now, normally in a game, if you're building a game that has pickups, you want to keep track of the objects that are being picked up, generally, whether that is a score or whether it's items in your backpack or your inventory or whatever. There's usually some reason why you would collect objects in the first place. If there wasn't a point to collecting objects, nobody would bother doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable that will keep track of how many objects we have picked up. And what I like to do is create one file that stores all of my global variables. Everybody's different, and this is just the way I do it. So what I'm going to do is in my scripts here, I'm going to right click and create a new C# script, and I'm going to call it global variables. All right. And we're going to double click that as soon as it's been created. And for this particular script, we don't need to have, well, actually, you know what? Let's leave the start because I'm going to use that for something different in a sec. But we don't need the update. We are simply using this script as an area for us to store our global variables. All right. Now, again, this is not a coding lesson per se, but when you define a variable, whatever that might be, you have to tell it whether this is something that's only going to be used internally within this file or if it's going to be accessed by everything. And again, we talked about this before. That is called public for objects that are going to be, variables that are going to be accessed elsewhere. And there's also private. All right. So we are going to use a public type of variable in this case. We're also going to use the word static, which tells us basically that this variable is going to be used as a common property for our objects that we assign it to. It's something that's going to remain static throughout the lifetime of this entire program. All right, hopefully that makes sense. It's a static variable. It doesn't change throughout the duration of this program. Next, we have to tell it what type of variable we're creating. So this one's going to be an integer. So the shortcut is just int for an integer, and just to recap, integers are whole numbers, because what we're going to call this now, we can give it any name we want. I'm going to call it pickups, and we are going to be keeping track of how many pickups we have in the game. And actually, let's just add one other thing. I'm going to say equals 0, okay, so that we put that inside there as well. So we have defined a variable called pickups, and right now its value is set to 0. It has no value. And if I save this, I'm going to close this. Actually, I'm just going to switch to Unity. You'll see that it's saved and updated here with that variable in there. Now, one good practice, again, that I do, and I think a lot of Unity developers do, is they will take their global scripts that affect the entire game, and attach them to something that's always going to be in the scene. For example, some people will attach it to the light. I like to attach my scripts to the camera. All right, so I'm going to put my script into the camera. Okay, that's where it's going to go. Whoops, let's just throw it in there. Okay. So global variables is now attached to the camera, and if I hit play, nothing changes at all. Okay, the game is exactly the same as it was because we haven't done anything with that variable just yet. It's simply sitting there in the global variables file, but it's not being used for anything. So let me show you a way that you can check to see if the variable was actually created correctly and that it's actually working. All right, we're going to go back into our global variables. And this is where we're going to use the method start here. Remember, this runs once on the first frame of the game, basically. First time the script runs. We are going to output the value of pickups to our console or our log. And this is a commonly used technique by developers to check to make sure that their variables or their scripts are working correctly. And it's very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to type debug.log with a capital, and we're going to tell it what we want to display within the log itself. And it's going to be pickups. It's going to be the variable pickups that we created up here. Okay, so let's save that. And to check to see if it's actually working, what we're going to do is we're going to hit play. And you should see in the bottom left corner a little message that says 0. In the console, it'll also display 0 right here, because we told it to output basically the value of pickups. All right, so if we switch back to project here, we go into there, all it's displaying to the console is the value of pickups, which is 0. We can also make this look a little prettier, where inside of this window we could add some text. It's called a string that will basically be a little more descriptive for what we're trying to display. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to use quotations, and within the quotations I'm going to put current pickups. A string is any line of text, and this could be whatever you want it to be, whatever you want it to say. And in order to attach the value of the variable to this, we have to use the plus sign and a space. So now we're going to make it look a little bit fancier. Now our console will say current pickups with a colon space 0. Let's save it and let's check to see if that's actually what ends up happening. Let's hit play. And sure enough, down in the bottom left corner, you can see current pickups 0. Console also displays the same message, current pickups 0. So that is working exactly as expected. Let's go back to the project. Now that we've got this variable that we have created that is going to keep track of our variables, we have to actually implement it into our pickups so that we can change the variable as pickups get picked up, if that makes sense. So what we're going to do is we created this script a while ago in the last video called pickup objects. We're going to go inside of there. And inside of this script, if you remember, when a collision is detected with the player, it's going to hide the renderer and the collider. Inside of this same if statement, we are also going to tell it that we want to change the amount of the variable pickups to increase by 1, because every time you pick up 1, we want it to go up by 1. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So how we do that is we're going to type the name of the script that one was part of, and it's global variables. And you'll notice that Unity is smart enough to figure out what we're trying to do. We are going to access it by typing the script that it was found in. Then we're going to hit period, and we're going to put the name of the variable we're accessing, which is pickups. And in order to increase pickups by 1, we could do plus equals 1, or we could just do simply plus plus, which means we are increasing the pickups by 1. Within this same script, we are also going to put a debug log that will update us on the new value of pickups. So we're going to go like this. We're going to say current pickups, colon space, and do the plus. And here's something, again, that you have to do when you are accessing a variable from another script. Same thing as we did above. We have to put the name of the script it's coming from, dot whatever the name of the variable is. Okay? So hopefully this makes sense, but this is going to work exactly the same as the other one, except if it's working correctly, every time we pick something up, this will update by 1, and we'll get a new message output to the console that says current pickups now is whatever, 1, 2, 3, whatever, however many items we pick up. Okay, so let's check to see if it works. I'm going to save it. We are going to go back here. We don't have to add any of this because it's already attached to the objects. We're going to hit play, and we should now see that the pickups down here are changing. So we now have current pickups 3, and our console changes every time we pick up an object. So we can see that it is changing, it is working, and that variable is being updated from external scripts, from scripts that are used in other scripts that are accessing them. That is the value, the power of a public variable. That is why you would want to use a public variable in the first place, so that you can actually see how it, not see how it's going to change, but actually access it from other scripts. In the next video, we are going to get into some more advanced display options. We are going to actually create some UI elements so we can display our score and start to see things that look more game-like. So stay with us. I'll see you on the next one.